Welcome to The Howl, where GPAC's team of passionate people share 30 years of experience in the recruiting biz, with front row seats to hundreds of different industries. I'm your host, Luke Linus, and I'll be sitting down in the GPAC studio with recruiters, coaches, and industry leaders to talk shop on modern work culture, job hunting tips, elevating your recruiting game, and insight into trends and hiring for companies of all sizes. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Howl. Excited today to talk about small business mindset, kind of that mentality, that entrepreneurial spirit that is really important, not just in small business world, but in every area of life. And to have that conversation today, I've got Heather Metz, recruiter at GPAC, 2 years, right?
Yep.
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
She's somebody that I actually knew previous to GPAC, but somebody who I know has had some small business experience. So that's fun to have her on the show today. Welcome to The Howl.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time. I'm excited. Lots of cool stuff today. I'm excited for this conversation and how it relates to not just your life as a recruiter, but your life as a mom, former business owner, and kind of all the ways in which all the things that you've learned along the way.
Yep.
So hopefully if you're listening, we hope that there's some things in here that really encourage you no matter where you're at, and maybe challenge you. So let's get going today. Kind of with everybody, I start out with a little bit of an icebreaker. So I'm going to I got this little neat deck of cards here to find a random question. All right. Ooh, this is big. Short answer. If you were president, what's the first thing you would do?
Oh boy. Change the world.
How? What's one thing? Think about one thing.
Create some unity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We need a lot of unity.
Yeah. My son says he's going to change the world, so I think he's going to be president.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Your mom's too.
Yeah.
You're a recruiter for a couple of years.
Yep.
Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a mama too. One just turned 7. The other one just turned 1. So I had a baby during the pandemic.
Wow.
I know it. It was an interesting experience. So, been at GPAC as a recruiter for just shy of 2 years, and I've absolutely loved it. I just took the opportunity and said, this has to work, and had the mentality that it has to work. There's nothing else I can do. Yep. So went into it full on, and I do have a background in having a business. I owned a business prior to GPAC.
Let's talk about that.
So I owned a athleisure boutique, so like athletic wear that you can style for every day. So like those moms, the soccer mom, the person who's going from dropping the kids off to school in the morning, wears them all day, quick does that lunch workout, has the same clothes on because they didn't sweat too much, quick goes to the soccer game at night, all in the same clothes, and they just look cute and they're comfortable. So that was kind of the business model that I had set up there. I just started it from scratch and just said, this is what I want to do. I feel like there's nothing like it in town, and went for it. And it was a lot of fun. I have a lot of pride in that business that I started. And it stems also from my background because I was a personal trainer for a couple of years. So it goes into that fitness mindset, and just I knew a lot of people out there really enjoyed the leggings and the comfy clothes. And so I wanted to offer something different than, your regular Athleta or your Lululemon, just like a small boutique, started from scratch on my own. So.
Wow. So that's a lot of, I'm sure that's quite a bit of overhead. You gotta get a nice building.
Yeah. Yep. It started in a storefront.
Okay. Yep.
And then we transitioned or added online sales.
Okay.
And then eventually we just decided to not do the storefront. We moved it into online only.
Yep.
And so I was then working just out of just a small area with the overhead, and had employees to help out and that kind of stuff. So
just talk about that a little bit. You were mostly running it yourself. Did you have any partners? Did you have employees?
No, I was running it myself.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing, but I just did a lot of research, and came up with the name, and had friends that offered to help, obviously, as employees. So I was the sole owner of the business and I made the decisions, but I had a lot of help with friends and family along the
Yep.
way. Hmm.
And I introduced you as former business owner, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it was 2 years.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so talk about the journey.
Sure.
Kicking it off? What kind of happened through the process? How did it end?
It was very, very long days. I mean, I would get up right away in the morning. I would start working at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, there would be times when I would work until like 11 o'clock at night, just because things had to be done in a certain time frame. And it was important that they be done in a timely fashion. But you obviously don't want to do things with a lack of effort.
Mm.
So I was super passionate about it, which helped. Because I don't think if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're not going to put that kind of time and effort into it. And I was just so proud of the thing that I was building from scratch. Um, and so in those 2 years, like I said, it was a lot of trial and error. I had no idea. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I got to try this because I really feel like this is going to come out of that. And if it didn't work, okay, well, there was an error, but we'll take that and we'll use that moving forward to make better decisions. So that's the big thing with any type of entrepreneurial mindset, business mindset, anything you do, whether it's fitness related in your marriage or with your kids, like do what you think is best. But you have to try it or you're not going to know.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to try something just because you're afraid the outcome isn't going to be positive, because it could be positive.
Right. And so that's kind of what I hear from you, is that your mindset, even getting it started, was like, this is worth doing. This may not work out.
Yeah.
So you're prepared for that.
Yeah.
And it's worth putting your whole effort into.
Yeah. It's scary.
Yeah.
Because it's starting a business isn't like, there's different levels of businesses that you can start. You could do a like multi-level marketing type of a company, and it's very small investment. But with that same thing, it depends on how much effort and time you put into it up front to how much you're going to get out of it, no matter how much money you invest into it or not. With this, there was quite an investment up front. And so there's a lot, almost more at stake. But that also kind of puts that even more pressure on you to work even harder. And the business was going well after 2 years, but my kids are, at that point I only had one. And it felt like it was just taking a lot of time away from him. When you do own a business, you are investing very long days. And if an employee can't show up, you got to be there. If you have orders that have to get put through, you have to do them. I started in this company and didn't want to invest the payroll to have people do a job that I could do myself. So I spent a lot of time really, so I had to kind of think about it. Is this something that I want to continue doing? Because it's still going to take a couple of years for it to get going, but I don't really have the people in place so I just kind of had to decide which route I wanted to go. Keep doing it. And I could have. It's just I would have had to still invest even more money into it.
Right.
And so, like I said, I'm really excited about what I built and grew, and the support I had from friends and family, and the congratulations, and just it taught me a lot too.
Yeah.
And so it's moved me into like how successful I am at my job now.
Yeah. And it's really cool to hear your attitude about it. I think, maybe not everybody would have that kind of attitude post, it's not
selling
a failure,
business,
but moving on or making a decision. It's cool to hear that you have such a positive outlook on that experience in your life.
Yeah.
It's not a thing of shame or pain, but it probably was painful.
I don't look at it as a mistake or like an error or something I did wrong.
Yeah.
I look at it as it's only just shaped me into a better professional in my future career. And anytime you have that, so if you make mistakes, the best people learn from them.
Yep.
So just don't give up.
Yeah,
so.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So I'm a small business owner as well. For those of you listening, my wife and I own a CrossFit gym. We've owned it for probably about 9 years. Same early morning story you were talking about before, kind of the blood, sweat, and tears that go into building that community and that gym and keeping it sustained. Talk a little bit about that, the perception of owning a business,
Mm-hmm.
so like on the outside to me, owning a business is like, oh, I get to set my own hours and I
Yeah.
get to be my own boss. And, there's
Yeah.
kind of this perception that you get to run the show, but
Yeah.
talk about the reality of what that is actually like.
Right. Yeah, the perception is definitely, well, you just get to sit back and relax and watch the money come in. And that's not the case, especially in the beginning stages.
Mhm.
It's not just you develop a company name and then stuff starts just happening for you. It's up to you whether or not that stuff happens and if it's working. And you have to still have your feet wet in a business. I mean, even 10, 15, 20 years plus moving on if you want it to continue in the way you want it to. And so, and like I mentioned before, as a business owner, especially a small business owner with, some employees and a storefront, if an employee was sick, they're not going to show up if they're sick.
Yeah.
If I need that store staffed and the only option is me missing out on my son's game, I got to be
It's
there.
you.
I have
Yeah.
to be there. Or you got to just close your business, then you miss out on income or like revenue coming in. And then you'll have customers that are upset. There's just too much that you can't. So you end up having to not really like change your priorities per se, but you have to set aside things that you would probably rather do. Like I'd rather go to my son's game than have to go to the business that I was expecting an employee to show up for. But you do what you got to do. And that's the perception. I think people think you just get to, sit back and kick your feet up and put your toes in the sand and, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Grand?
Yeah, that'd be so nice. I mean, in a perfect world.
Yeah. And it's just not true.
It's just not true.
It takes a lot of work.
It does.
But talk about the positives of that. So those are the very real challenges. If you're listening and you haven't started a business in your life, those are the very real challenges of starting a small business or having any kind of environment around you where you are you're the hinge. Like everything's kind of relying on you. But talk about the positives. So what are the perks of small business?
There's a lot
world?
of pride. I mean, and passion. Like I said, when you own a business, you're passionate about it because you were the one that decided to start that business. You are the one that decided this is what I want to do, right? And so you have a lot of pride and passion in that, which goes into the excitement. So it gets you really excited about going to work and what you're doing every single day versus when you're an employee just clocking in and clocking out. You might be passionate about it, but not near as passionate as if it was yours.
Yep.
It's kind of like when you have kids, right? You might enjoy other people's kids, but it's not near the same as when it's your own children.
Yep.
You're passionate about those kids. You're passionate about what they do. You're really involved with their lives, and you want them to be, the end result of your kids is to be great adults.
Mm-hmm.
The similar situation with your business. The end result is to have a successful business.
Yeah, and that's really good.
So using that analogy kind of resonates with people. Like it's kind of like starting a baby. Mm-hmm. It's another baby.
Yeah,
another
it feels
child.
that way.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we had a baby and a business at the same time. It was really intense. Wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, so I would say, kind of what you're saying is that opportunity to bring your passion, bring your energy, your excitement, have it all kind of wrapped into your life a little bit.
Yeah.
And
there's financial benefit to it.
Yeah. So the other payoffs would be you get to have impact on people in a unique way.
Flexible scheduling.
Yeah. Maybe eventually flexible scheduling and hopefully it pays off, right? And the loans go away.
That's the goal.
That's the big reason. So I think it's really cool. I want to talk about recruiting now because I think, we kind of have three audiences that may be listening to this podcast, right? So there's the recruiters out there. Mm-hmm. There's people in the workforce, and then there's hiring authorities or companies that are looking to grow their companies. Yeah. Kind of thinking about everything that you've learned. How did you take that into your current role as a recruiter?
So they call it your desk, right? So how I operate my desk is up to me. So if I choose to not invest extra time into the things that I'm doing on the daily basis, I'm probably not going to get much reward out of it, right? So it's very important that you stay focused, you have goals, you set goals, you drive to succeed them, but you're not going to get to your goals without a plan. So it's very important to plan your day. how are you going to get to where you're wanting to be?
Mm-hmm.
So setting goals, it's very important just to be self-motivated. And as a business owner, you have to be self-motivated. Even on the days you don't feel like showing up, you got to do it. So working hours when you don't feel like it, just do it, because by working that extra time here and there, it pays off in the long run.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so for people new to recruiting, the opportunity that a recruiter has is it's a people business. It's a
yeah,
relationship business. So even though you work for a company in this
yeah,
situation, ultimately the business is you.
yeah,
It's how it's your connections and how you're
yep,
working with your teammates
yep,
to help find candidate. You know, we talked about
yeah,
this, help find candidates, the opportunity they're looking
yeah,
for, and help companies find
yep,
that next candidate.
yep,
So yeah, well, how has that, you talked, everything you talked about was so rich in the early experience of business.
yeah.
How did you translate that into kind of that first, 3 to 6 months of recruiting?
Yeah. Well, the difference between when I had my boutique and with starting this recruiting business is I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have leadership. I didn't have years of experience under someone else's belt to go to for advice. With recruiting and obviously owning my business in a business, there's 30 years of experience with this company. And so I'm able to use that experience and really take advantage of the knowledge that all these people have that have been doing it for a very long time to teach me what I need to do to be successful.
Yep. In
Right.
comparison to when you
Where I
started your business.
was, it was all up to me. I just had to do some research. I didn't know if it was good research. I don't know if it was the right thing to do for that situation. I just had to make the best decision based off of what I'm understanding. And in recruiting and doing it with a business, I was able to utilize the 30 years of knowledge and experience, and really take that and run with it.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it probably really freed you up to live out some of those things that you learned when you were in the business world
yes.
of, kind of having that, we talk about that mindset, the
Yeah.
mindset of this is my business. If I
Yep.
don't show up today,
Yep.
nothing's going to get done,
Yeah.
right? Nobody's
Yep.
going to make the calls,
Mhm.
nobody's going to get the work in, right?
Yep.
So how are you living that out every day now, kind of in your day to day?
So I work as often as I can. So if I have some free time, instead of just like sitting there and watching TV, I'll do some work. I'll, reach out to some people, I'll send some emails, I'll do extra work. Just because I know it allows me a flexibility in my job, which is again a benefit of owning your own business is flexibility with your schedule. But I'm putting in the extra time and the extra work because I have goals that I'm trying to achieve. And I know where I want to be by the end of this year. Okay, well then I'm moving into the next year. So constantly just looking forward and figuring out where I want to be in my life and using steps to get there. And so I just really just stay motivated. I'm very driven. And my mindset is if I don't do this stuff that I'm supposed to do, I'm not any closer to where I want to be
Mhm.
than I was before. Because if I'm just sitting back and hoping something comes my way, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
So just being really active with my um, efforts, and then you know using that to get to where I want to be,
Yep.
essentially. Hmm.
Yeah. So you talked about your goals.
Yeah.
What do people really need to sustain that kind of motivation?
Set small goals. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, I get it. You want to, be this type of a recruiter. Like, you want to have this much in income. Well, you have to have small goals to get there, and you
Hmm.
also have to have a plan. Just like with fitness, right? If you want to lose, 40 pounds,
Hmm.
want is one thing. Okay. But you have to have a plan in place of small goals to achieve that bigger goal. And so maybe, you're not going to lose 40 pounds in 1 month,
Right.
but eventually you will. So maybe let's break it down and be realistic, like 8 pounds in 1 month. So then, just being realistic with your goals and then setting the small ones to actually get there.
Yep.
So because you know how they say, failure to plan to fail.
Sure.
And it really goes with anything in life. So,
Yep. How does planning play out in your own life?
um, I am a big planner. So I have like a calendar and it like,
Mega calendar?
yeah, it's like, okay, well, this is when you're going to fit your workout in.
Sure.
This is, when you're going to go get groceries,
Mhm.
especially when you have kids too. I mean, if you don't have kids, you probably still have a busy schedule, but when you have kids, you got to pick them up from school at a certain time. You got to go get them from daycare. Then you got sports that you got to go to. So you really have to have a plan in place. And then at the end of the day, if you were able to stick to your plan, you feel so good about yourself. You know what I mean? Because you were very productive and you got the things done that you wanted to get done versus just, okay, I got to get this done today. Then at the end of the day, you're like, oh, well, I didn't get 3 of the things done. Well, if you planned it into your day a little bit better, when you kind of set a time that's set that time aside, maybe you would be able to achieve what you wanted to in the day a whole lot better just by
Yep.
planning. You know what I mean?
It's really discipline.
Discipline,
It's not just planning,
absolutely.
it's discipline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that I learned in school was desire, discipline, delight.
Yeah.
So you want something, you
Yeah.
desire it.
Yep.
In order to get to the delight,
You have
you
to have
can't just skip it.
discipline.
You have to have discipline.
Yeah.
And once you encounter the discipline,
For sure.
you can enjoy it.
Yep.
And that couldn't be truer in
Mm-hmm.
every
Yeah.
area you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I love the fitness stuff too, because I think that's such a parallel to
Yeah, it goes with everything.
to every
It
part of
teaches you
life.
so much. I actually was a fitness competitor. And so to be able to
What does
get
that mean?
so like there's like the NPC and the WBFF.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So just like a fitness competitor or like in the CrossFit games, right?
Mhm.
So to be able to compete on that stage or in those CrossFit games, you have to do things to get there
Yep.
or you're not going to do very well, right? So in the competitive world, you have to have the meals planned. You got to do the things that you probably don't want to do. You probably want to eat that cheeseburger over
Sure.
your chicken, rice, and vegetables.
Sure.
But are you going to be happy with the result at the end of the day? Because you have to do those things that are going to get you there, even though you don't want to.
Yep.
So,
So in light of that, it's like 20% of small businesses fail in their first year. In the recruiting world, it typically takes 6 to 9 months
yeah.
to make a placement.
Yep.
That's a long time. If you're an employee out there, it can take up 18 months to 2 years, I think it is, to get a promotion.
Yeah.
Those are long periods of time. They're
Yeah.
not overnight success.
Right.
So kind of just taking stock of everything we've talked about, your experience in business world and then now as a recruiter, like what would you say to people who are in that early stage where they're faced with this could not work, this
Yeah.
may not work, this feels like it's not working.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
Don't give up.
That's it.
Well, don't give up.
Just
and understand that even though the work you're putting in today, it may not seem like it's going to get you to your end result, but it will. There's been times where I've done action steps with recruiting and it paid off after 10 months, maybe even longer than that, 14 months, right? Where I've been consistently sending the right emails to the right people. At those times, they just didn't have any needs, or they were just kind of probably seeing I've stuck around.
Sure.
And eventually they were like, all right, I've seen your emails come through. It seems like you have really good connections with the right people. I'd like to talk with you. So the actions that I was doing on a daily, weekly basis was staying in front of those right people. So eventually it paid off and now they're a client, right? So they were just paying attention to see if I would be just another recruiter that would, it didn't work out. Well, good thing we didn't have that one. Or good thing we didn't want to work with that one.
Right.
So just stay consistent with what you're doing because eventually that effort will pay off. It's just never with anything is that are you going to see an immediate reward? It takes time.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, there's lots of truisms in there. Like I think it's kind of like the eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Nothing we're saying here isn't on a poster somewhere.
Right.
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 The consistency, discipline, like these are all things that we maybe grew up
Mhm.
hearing, but truly, we can't get to the places we want to be without those things.
You have to keep wanting to get better. Better at what you do, better as a person, There's always things that you can want to improve. Every start of the year, everyone's got New Year's resolutions. And of course, at that point, you're wanting to better yourself some way, somehow in your life. So using that and just even in business. So even if every year, you're like, every year I make this resolution,
Sure.
think about it. Is that something you want bad enough? Why are you making that resolution every year, but you're not sticking to it? Do you want it bad enough? Maybe you're setting your goals too high.
Sure.
Maybe you're not as passionate about that as you thought you were. So maybe you just need to reassess things.
Yep. And I think that's the wisdom to not necessarily a generation, but I would say there's this kind of increasing trend. Maybe it's social media that
Sure.
kind of creates this perception that success happens
Mhm.
overnight. Like you look at the people around you or famous people and you're like, oh, like that person's on a yacht wherever. And like,
Yeah.
and they're young and they're
Right.
like, well, that must have just been boom, boom.
Yeah.
But like the reality of success is whether it's 18 months to a promotion
Yeah.
or it's
Yeah.
5, what is it? Like 7 to 10 years
Right.
before a business really becomes financially sustainable,
Mhm.
average business. That's a long
That's a
time.
long time.
That's
Mhm.
a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
To be able to sustain that
Yeah.
comes in really small, consistent, disciplined steps.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you're saying today.
Absolutely.
And that's not going to change. This isn't,
No.
like there's nothing profound in that.
Ask
Like,
anyone that's successful, they're going to tell you that.
Yep.
It takes time, it takes consistency, persistence, it takes hard work, a lot of effort. The days you want to give up are the days that you have to stick it through even more, So I think that is something that you can put into any aspect of your life, whether it's an entrepreneurial business mindset, fitness related, or even relationships with, your family, your people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's taking the consistent steps, but what's the thing behind that? We kind of talk about, I think it was in episode 1, we talked about your why.
Yeah.
That's kind of why are you answering that question consistently?
Yeah.
Okay, I can go put the work in, but if I don't know why.
Right. Nobody can want it more than you.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it comes down to. If for like in this recruiting business, I wanted it to work so bad. And I kept thinking about, if this doesn't work, what am I going to have to go do? And every other option to me, I was not okay with. It scared me. I was like, this has to work for me.
Yep.
Because I know and I believe in myself that I'm capable of being successful in this business, but nobody can do it for me and nobody can want it more than me. And so that's what it came down to for me, is my why was not only my kids, because I want to show them, that if you work hard and you do what you're supposed to do and you're passionate about it, you can be successful in anything that you want. But what probably motivated and drove me the most is the scarcity of, if this doesn't work, what am I going to have to go do? And it would likely be a job where I had to work hours I don't want to work, holidays, and very low pay.
Yep.
And I know I'm capable of way more than that. And
Yep.
so I just was like, this has to work for me. I have no other option. So
it's kind of like closing the door behind you thing,
Yeah.
right? Which I think is an interesting psychological concept. Like you're not really, it's not that you can't not do anything, but it's almost like you're just choosing to
yeah. Well,
shut
if this
that
doesn't
door
work,
and
at
say,
least I got
gotta
something
do
else I
this.
can go do.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like literally it forces you to put your
Yeah.
whole energy into making that thing happen.
Yep.
Otherwise, I think maybe it's the human nature. We just
Yeah.
walk away from hard things.
Right. If you go into something thinking, well, if it doesn't work out, at least I got this. That's not the right mindset to have.
Yeah.
Your mindset should be, if this doesn't work out, I am going to be so mad and so upset that I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So essentially, you need to have the mindset there is no other option.
Yep. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. What about kind of speaking to people out there, I haven't looked up stats on this, but, I can just kind of sense in the world that, as things get maybe a little bit scarier or there's more turmoil and economics they feel good, but they always feel like they might be shifting.
Yeah.
Fear creates a sense of conservatism sometimes. So people maybe young people maybe aren't as motivated to get out there and like start their own business because that seems even scarier.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say to people just about taking risks? Like kind of from what you've learned?
No risk, no reward. I mean, so if you want that reward and what you want is too scary, then is it really a reward? I mean, you have to take risks in order to get that whatever you're wanting in life. So if let's just, like there's the cryptocurrency out there,
Sure.
right? You could put money into that. There's risk because you could lose that money, but there also could be a lot of reward with it, right? It's kind of like with life, there things are a gamble.
It's like any investment, really.
Any investment.
Yep.
You have to put some risk into it, but sometimes that risk can scare you enough to motivate you more than it should. I mean, motivate you enough.
Yep.
So it should actually make you stronger.
Yeah. Well, I think risk is cool because it has the potential for the intrinsic or the actual reward that you want.
Yeah.
Which could be financial, it could be emotional, it could be whatever.
Yeah.
But the intrinsic reward from taking a risk is growth.
Yep.
So literally there's two things, compared to the loss or potential loss or failure, there are two major things that make you better as a person.
Yep.
If you are willing to consider changing or growing or being stretched or potentially failing.
Yep.
And you take the risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you say intrinsic. So my business name was extrinsic.
Huh.
So the mindset or the reason that I called the business extrinsic was because there's fitness, people can use fitness clothing as an external motivator, right? So if you feel good about yourself, you're extrinsically motivated to work out. Or you can use those clothes like, man, I really want that pair of leggings, but I can't quite afford it. Or, gosh, it's a size small, but I'm a medium. So I then am going to work and use that as my extrinsic motivator to keep myself motivated to get that pair of leggings in a size small and actually fit into it then. So that pair of leggings is my extrinsic motivator. In intrinsic, you eventually have to get there, right? Usually people start off extrinsically motivated where they will use whether it's money or clothes, external things, to get them motivated to keep going. Once you get started, especially like with a business and you're passionate and excited and things are going really well and it's fun, or in fitness, you're seeing the results happen, you eventually move into more of an intrinsic motivation. So you're internally motivated because it feels good. I don't want to go back to that because when I wasn't working out, I didn't feel very good about myself. So now I'm intrinsically motivated to continue with that program. Yep. Same thing with like owning a business.
Right.
With time,
100%.
You'll eventually get there. And because you know that good feeling of putting that hard work in, you're intrinsically motivated to keep going. So
yeah. And there were a lot of moments, I think, even in our own business story of not that we really even knew what we wanted when we started it. Because fitness world isn't necessarily a lucrative business, but where, there is the potential for that. And so that's a reward, but you get in and all of a sudden you realize, oh, I really love these people. And I really love the impact that we're having in people's lives. And that is rewarding in itself. And that makes it worth it. Not in every case. And I think that's what you were saying is like, there were a lot of things that made it worth it for you. And so that way the decision wasn't just financial. It was kind of like, look, I'm not spending the time where I want to spend it. Yeah. And I'm going to make a decision to move on.
Yes.
And now you get to sit in this seat at GPAC and really have had a successful recruiting career. Yeah. And the sky's the limit for you. So it's pretty exciting.
It's been fun.
So knowing what you know now, I like to talk about the practical side too. We hit a lot of the mindset stuff.
Sure.
Knowing what you know now, what are things that you practically wish you would have done? Or would implement if you were to do it again, thinking about starting a business or just doing anything entrepreneurial?
Sure. I jumped into it when I started the business. I'm one that's just gung ho, like let's get started. I can't patiently sit back and just slowly do things. You know what I mean? So maybe a little bit more of a strategic plan put in place. So kind of set that excitement aside, keep it there, but really have more of a longer path or place goal, right? So I was more so figuring out I need to do this in 3 months in order for the store to open. So I was looking very short term. And that was probably due to having a lack of mentorship, the right mentor, right? The person that has opened a boutique before to give me the mindset or the insight of, well, this is exactly how much money you're probably going to want to have set aside for, capital and all that kind of stuff, right? This is what you're going to want to get set up first. I would probably use this resource over this one because this one's more expensive, right? There was a lot of money spent on certain things, and then I had to switch it because it was not right. So then I wasted the money on that, right? So having that mentor to give me even like the right resources would have saved me a lot of money. And then, like I was kind of mentioning there, having more of a long-term goal, especially with like when it came to owning a boutique, you had to buy seasons ahead. You really had to plan ahead, right? So you're not buying spring stuff in spring, you're buying spring stuff or you're buying fall stuff in the spring.
Yeah.
So, and trying to keep up with the trends and that takes a lot of time and research on top of needing to run the business,
every day.
Get the website set up, get the packages put out, get the new inventory put in, get everything priced. All that stuff took so much work. And I think if I had more of that mindset of, I think starting the business, you're going to want to have not a business partner, but someone to work alongside you and do some of the simple stuff that you can easily teach. Have them do that to take that off of your plate and you can focus on this stuff, right?
Yep.
So having all that kind of stuff. So if you're starting a business and you are like, what is really important for me to have? Find someone in that specific industry or has experience and is really successful and see if they're open to being a mentor for you, right? I guarantee you there's someone out there in that specific industry that would probably take a lot of pride in you asking them if you said, hey, you know what? I've been watching you for a while. It seems like you're doing really well. You're very successful. I kind of want to get into a similar business and I'd like a mentor. Any chance that I could, run things by you, pick your brain, I'd pay you for your time.
Yeah.
If someone came to me and said, hey, you know what? You look like you're doing so well and so successful and you're doing things the right way. I want to learn from you because I look up to you. That person's going to be like, oh man, sure.
Yeah, but it goes against that, like, I think when people get started in business, they think, I'm going to be the boss.
Yeah,
or I don't
know what
need
I'm
your
doing.
help.
Yeah.
And what you're saying really is find somebody who you want to follow or you would benefit from and just straight up ask them.
Yeah.
Ask if they would help you out.
What's the worst that can happen? Say no.
Right.
Find someone else.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to somebody who's maybe an employee out there? So, like we know that, having small business experience obviously is its own thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also is a really attractive thing in an employee because you've shown that you can engage in that kind of environment.
Sure.
Success or failure, right? But what would you say to somebody who is an employee? What is the opportunity that entrepreneurship at any level provides to that person?
As an employee, for me, I like to be recognized in what I do, but I'm not going to be recognized if I'm not doing a job well done, if I'm not doing the job that's expected of me, right? So as an employee, you should be motivated enough or want to move up within the company. And by doing that, you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? Show that employer, that person who hired you, why you are worth that salary, that hourly, whatever, right? And with time, they're going to keep an eye on that. They're going to watch that. And they're going to see that you're working hard. You're putting in extra time. You're going above and beyond. And that's because you had that entrepreneurial mindset, even though you're not an entrepreneur, and doing what needed to be done to help benefit them, right? And so using that kind of a tool and mindset, like, I don't see myself ever owning a business, but I would like to move up within a company.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, I need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. And I need to show my employer why I'm of value to them, why I'm a key player in their business, and why I should continue to grow with them.
Yeah, growth. So it's really that desire to grow, showing that you can take on an extra project, or you can learn an extra set of skills, or something where
eagerness to learn.
Yeah, you're not just like showing up and doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're finding ways to be a lifelong learner.
Yep.
And those are the things that are really going to be attractive attractive to your employer, but also beneficial for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
make you a better person. If you grow, invite growth, invite change and challenge.
Yeah.
Really good. So, kind of like we talked about so many things today. I just have these like great notes written all over my paper, like you need passion to stick it out. You need consistency and discipline, setting big goals, but then little goals within that to
get there.
kind of hit the big thing. Kind of tackling that public perception of success that it doesn't happen overnight. It can take years and years and years, but it's more about what's it worth to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So lastly, for recruiters out there, any recruiters in any company or independently recruiting out there, knowing what you know, now that you're in this business for a couple of years, what's something that you would say to them about the mindset that's needed to really succeed in this business?
Sure. I think it comes down to the consistency piece of it. Like I was mentioning earlier, you have to stay in front of those clients and you have to consistently reach out to the right people. So, because you have an end result that you have in mind, right? You're looking to make that placement because you're looking to benefit that company by finding the exact person they're looking for. But you also are wanting to benefit that candidate, that professional that is going to get potentially a new opportunity and a potentially better opportunity. So just know that you're doing these things for the right reasons, right? Don't look at it as I need to do this because I need to make money. Look at it as I want to help this company because it sounds like they're in pain, right? They need this person in place or they're going to lose money or they're going to, miss out on certain projects or certain opportunities for their company to continue to grow if they don't find this person. On the same token, when you talk to these candidates, know that if you're reaching the right person with the right message, you might be able to put them into an opportunity that could change their life. Whether that's more money, whether they're completely unhappy because they're in a really bad company culture. And so you reached out at them at the right time, got them into an opportunity, and they're just like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And had you not reached out to me, I would not have known about it. And so just know that you're impacting the lives of so many people in what you're doing. And so if you have that in the back of your head versus I need to make a bunch of money, you're going to be so much better off. The impact you're making in people's lives is going to be that best motivation for you and to do things the right way.
Yep. So again, it's the discipline and the consistency, the planning, doing the little things over the long haul. That's really going to make you somebody in the marketplace that's a valuable asset, right? But the way that you get there is not just by having maybe just the financial goals. It's having in mind the true impact that you have with people.
Yeah. Yep. You're doing things for the greater good.
Yep.
And so then that's where you can have that passion, right? You can have that passion in what you're doing because you're able to change people's lives.
Yeah, there's that intrinsic reward.
Yep, right there.
We kind of do something at the end here just for fun. It's rapid fire. So I kind of ask you 5 really quick questions just as a fun way to close out the episode. Sure. So can't be long-winded, but just a kind of first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So rapid fire in this episode, we'll start with number 1. What is your favorite workout movement?
Deadlifts.
Yeah. Heavy. What town were you born in?
Hull.
Hull,
Iowa.
Oh, Iowa.
Yes.
Hull, Iowa.
Yeah.
What's one skill you wish you had?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. Skill. To cook. Terrible cook.
To cook. Well, that can still be learned in your life. Are you willing to grow and do that?
Yeah, I would take cooking classes for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. What would be your superpower of choice?
To be able to hear what people are thinking.
Like read minds?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Takeaway question. So what's one thing that, if somebody's listening to this podcast, hopefully you've made it to the end. Thank you again if you're listening for making it to the end with us. But what is kind of one thing you want to leave people with out of all the things we've talked about today?
Find passion. Whether that's in your current employment, if you don't have passion where you're currently at, go find it. If you don't have passion in the exercise program that you're in, find a different one. If you don't have passion, in what you're doing on a daily basis, go find it. You have to find that passion, and then everything else follows. Because when you're passionate about something, you're going to put in the work, you're going to stay consistent, and you're going to get to where you want to be. And you're just going to be so much more successful in life, no matter what you're doing.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks,
absolutely.
Heather. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us. I'm just so excited about this podcast. There's so many different topics we're covering, from small business stuff to, the hiring process, interviewing, recruiting, kind of all of it, anything that happens in the workplace culture. So I'm excited for this, and I'm grateful for this conversation that we had today. If you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're really everywhere right now, anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you like watching podcasts, you can watch it on YouTube, or check out our landing page, gogpac.com/the Howl, as well as the Knowledge Center. We've got a really cool website built out right now with a bunch of resources added weekly, great articles on similar topics just like this one from Heather. So make sure you go check that out at gogpac.com/the Knowledge Center. We will see you next episode.